Hello, everyone. I'm Graham Ledger, and welcome to the Daily Ledger. Our cover story, pre-Hanukkah, pre-Christmas, post-Jerusalem terror attack in New York. Location, the Port Authority, adjacent to Times Square. Busy terminal filled with commuters connecting to various arteries in New York City. The means, an apparent pipe bomb. The terrorist apparently botched his assault on innocent Americans. The explosive device apparently going off prematurely on his person.
This morning, while New Yorkers were making their way to work, a terrorist set off a pipe bomb strapped to his body in one of Manhattan's busiest commuter hubs.
This attacker sounds like the typical so-called lone wolf terrorist who was inspired by the Islamic State and who we will see more of as the so-called caliphate splinters and spreads like barbarous cockroaches throughout the West. But clearly, in this case, it's another example of importing the terrorist legally onto our soil. We let this guy in during the Obama administration. Question is, how many more of them are there peppered throughout the country? Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., spokeswoman for Americans for Limited Government, Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie Jane, to say that the folks in New York City, those commuters in that subway and wherever this guy was headed, dodged a bullet on this day, I think that's putting it mildly. Indeed, they dodged an explosion. And fortunately, from what we're hearing is only, I think, 2 people may have been winged by this device. And fortunately, he took most of the impact, and that's a good thing. But the bottom line is we have to remember the methodology and the reason behind these attacks. They hate everything about us, and they especially hate us this time of year. What, 24 hours before the beginning of Hanukkah and 13 days or so before Christmas. We have to be diligent as Americans. We have to understand that we are targets, especially this time of year.
Well, despite that is the holiday season for us, it's never out of season for these jihadists to kill us. Let's never forget that. They will always aim for targets and try to upset us in any way possible. And they're going after softer targets like subway stations and going into areas where there's massive amounts of people. Jihad by infiltration is one method they use, and jihad by violence. Either way, they will destroy our country if we allow them in. And you made a very good point. He was let in under the Obama administration. I dare to say maybe we need to go back and do some extreme vetting by those who have already gotten into this country, because how well were they vetted under the previous administration? I dare to ask that question. I would like to have it answered.
Well, I wonder if they were really vetted at all, and Donald Trump being ridiculed for his so-called extreme vetting, that's exactly what we need. And we also, by the way, need a travel ban. I want to touch on that more in a moment, but a couple of things on this one. You mentioned soft targets. This clearly, it may have been that he was not intending to detonate the device inside the subway. He may have been headed toward Times Square. For all we know, we don't know his exact intentions, but the police are destined to find that out. We also do know, apparently, these terrorists aren't so tough, are they? They seem to squeal. Through very just normal kinds of interrogation, they spill their guts. And so this guy says that he built some sort of pipe bomb through information that's readily available on the internet. And these are the kinds of things that we have to be watchful of. People going off to Home Depot, if you see something, say something. Guys buying a chunk of pipe at Home Depot and possibly something to stuff in it, maybe like nails. You know what? You should speak up.
Yes, the ISIS magazine had published an article called How to Build a Bomb in the Basement of Your Mom. And it was targeting people like this, fools just like this. And I consider him to be a fool because, here he's blowing himself up, didn't even kill himself. He managed to get that far, but he caused really, we're very blessed that there was nothing worse that happened. But I would say let's treat him like an enemy combatant. Let's not read him his Miranda rights. Let's just take this step back and start treating this just like we would if he was captured on the battlefield, because essentially that's what he's doing. He is treating this American city as his battlefield. Right. And I don't think that reading someone their rights where they get to clam up and not tell us more. Let's figure out who's behind him, where he got his ideology from, and what imam, if possible, is out there that tried to provoke him to do this, if that should be the case.
This perpetrator, this terrorist, but this perpetrator in this case, to use kind of a legal term, fits the M.O. of terrorists, as far as we know, in this country and beyond. Al-Qaeda, Allah, 27 years old. He's a Bangladeshi nationalist. Now, it should be noted that Bangladesh, while it's not on the travel ban list, it is a Muslim-majority country. But he's lived in the United States 7 years, and as we pointed out, he came in under Barack Obama, and he's already said to investigators that he's sympathetic to the Islamic State. Now, we know that the Islamic State is getting hammered in Syria. It's almost closed theater there. It's closed in Iraq, and I want to talk about that in just a second as well. But how much do you want to bet, Jesse, I'll say it on national television right now, that this guy could be a beneficiary of the diversity lottery system that we've talked about harming people in New York just a few months ago?
All of our immigration has to be reevaluated. It's obscene that we even had a diversity lottery program where we're allowing people to represent countries that were underrepresented. What in the world were we thinking? Well, I'm sorry, the last 8 years explains all that. This is time for us to have vetting of people that can bring something to the United States besides jihad and ideology that murders Americans and kills people innocently. You know, and they'll say to you that, you know, they don't go after anybody innocent. Well, then time and time again, why are innocent people being slaughtered in the name of their Allah? I just find this very upsetting on so many levels. I think there's a lot of questions that have to be asked, but I say let's go back and re-vet. Let's redo this, because the last 8 years, I think, have exposed this country to probably some very hazardous waste in this country.
And I think that events like this, unfortunately, are tacit approvals, really, of what President Trump is trying to do. I say unfortunately because we don't want innocent Americans to get hurt, like we've seen in New York City the past two terrorist attacks. But the bottom line, this is what's happening. And we need to have a travel ban, and we need to look at Bangladesh, in my opinion, as part of a travel ban. We need to continue to support that. And we also need to continue to support this president and the marvelous work that has been done overseas to eradicate the Islamic State. Jessie Jane, this was probably the most underreported story of the weekend. Iraq is declaring victory over the Islamic State. Roll tape.
We announce to our people and to the whole world that our heroes have reached the final strongholds of ISIS and purified it, raising the Iraqi flag over areas of western Anbar, which were the last Iraqi usurped territories. The Iraqi flag flies high today over all Iraqi lands and over the remotest border areas.
Here's the bottom line. First of all, congratulations to the Iraqi military for wiping out those cockroaches that had invaded their country in Iraq. That's number one. And number two, Donald Trump did in 9 or 10 months what Barack Obama refused to do for 4 long years. And think about all the innocent people that were slaughtered at the hands of these people that Barack Obama allowed to have happen. The absolute genocide that was taking place in Iraq and in Syria, but primarily in Iraq with the Yazidis and Christians being slaughtered by these people. Donald Trump came in and he kept his campaign promise, and he got those barbarians out of there because the United States had the back of the Iraqi military this entire time.
Yes, but we have to recognize that ISIS will go underground. They may have left the scene, so to speak, but they will redistribute and they will pop up in other ways. So this is like whack-a-mole. You get rid of one, it's going to pop up another area. Until the entire world starts getting serious about this, including our European allies who have been very pacifist in many ways and allowing themselves to be exposed to this horrible fate that we all seem to experience on some level, I think we have to recognize that Donald Trump is very serious, and just because ISIS is gone, at least from the scene right now, they will probably rebrand themselves, name themselves something else, and we're not going to see the end of them. It's something that's going to take constant vigilance.
Right, but they don't have a center anymore. And in Syria, meantime, Vladimir Putin is pulling Russian troops out of there on the precipice of victory.
Huge.
It's unfortunate. Yes, they have spread like little cockroaches all over the place. And this guy in New York, while not directly possibly affiliated with the Islamic State, certainly he is philosophically affiliated with the Islamic State. And these are the people that we need, these little moles, we need to root out in this country. But once again, I think we have to give the President of the United States, you know, no matter your political party, you have to give him credit for doing what he said he would do, and now there is victory in Iraq. And congratulations to the Iraqis. Congratulations to our military on the ground there offering support, and congratulations to the 45th President of the United States. Jessie Jane, thank you.